Well, hello there and welcome back to a new episode. Now I know it's been a while, but as promised I thought I would do a quick update on the plot because a lot has happened this summer and there's a lot that I want to share with you, so let's get started. So hello strangers, it feels so weird to be in front of the camera again, but also great at the same time because I have missed it. I truly mean that when I say I've missed it. Like I miss coming up to the allotment, and I miss, even though I'm chatting to the camera now, I know that I'm chatting to like-minded people at the same time, and I miss it, I really do. So yeah, life's become a little bit less hectic now that the garden shows have ended, because obviously throughout the summer and the spring, I mean basically from April until last weekend, we were doing garden shows. We were selling at garden shows with lavender and leeks, and obviously during the week we have been getting stock ready, buying the vintage stuff, getting it ready, cleaning it. My dad's been making metalwork, and then the weekends were heading to the garden shows and setting up there and selling. So it's been amazing, but it's been crazy hectic. But we've had the best feedback and we've had the best year selling at the garden shows so far. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that popped by our stall and said hello at all the garden shows, and thank you for buying things from us at the shows and online, because we also sell online. So as well as the shows, we've been sending out parcels and things for the people that have been buying online. So thank you to everyone, every single one of our customers. Thank you. So now that's out the way and you know how hectic it's been, I'm going to get onto the allotment, which has been very neglected. I will also just quickly mention that this video will probably be more of a rambling one because I haven't seen you guys in such a long time, and I mean the last video done was I think back in February, so there's a lot to catch up on. So basically I will be talking a lot. I was going to apologise then, but I don't know, I feel like I shouldn't apologise, but yeah, it'll be a lot of talking, so please bear with me. But yeah, the allotment has been very much neglected. It hasn't been the best year at all, but if I'm honest, some parts have been really good and other parts not so good, which I suppose happens. It happens. Life happens, life gets busy. But I'm still glad that I've got it. There have been times this year when I have been this close to giving up the allotment because it's just been too much. Like, I'm very much a perfectionist, so when I come up here and I see the weeds and I see the pile of rubbish and I think, oh, like I can't do it, but it's produced some brilliant crops this year, so I can't complain. I mean, a year where it's been neglected, it still produces, which is just, it's amazing. So yeah, it's not all been bad, but I just haven't had the time to really come up here and to sit down and relax, which is what I miss the most. I mean, I haven't even had time to put the stove on. I mean, I don't even have any gas here for the stove, which just shows how bad it's been. But every now and again I bring a flask up and I escape up here for 5 minutes, so it's not been all bad. But I mean, last year and the year before, there was just so much more time to come up here and sit down and enjoy it, whereas this year it's been coming up here to do specific jobs and to weed it, otherwise it would have just been a mess. But yeah, like I said, there's been some really good things. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably show you a few pictures of over the summer of some of the successes and the fails. because I managed to take quite a lot of pictures. So I don't know if you follow my Instagram or the blog or anything, but I take a lot of pictures. So yeah, I'll show you a few pictures of some of their harvests and things, and what I'll also do is give you a tour of the allotment, and I'll just talk about the areas and, you know, the successes and the fails and what I'm going to do next year and little changes and things like that. But yeah, that's basically it. It'll probably be a really long video because I do like to talk. But yeah, I think we might as well start with the tour, and then we can do a little bit more chatting afterwards, because I got some nice tulip bulbs to show you, and a few pictures that I want to share with you all as well. So we will start with the tour, and I think I'm going to show you the sunflowers. Even though they're dying, I'm still unbelievably proud of them, and I can't wait to share them with you. So we'll head over to the sunflower patch first. So this is what I call the sunflower patch. It's not really a sunflower patch. I mean, it basically has 5 sunflowers there, but I like to call it a sunflower patch because it makes the allotment sound a little bit bigger. But basically, this is the first time I've ever grown sunflowers taller than me. Now I'm 6 foot, so I reckon this sunflower here, which is bent over, may I add, I reckon it was about 10 foot. Now they've bent over now because they flowered about a month ago now, so they've basically had it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the flower heads off. I'm going to leave the heads out to dry, and then what I'll do is I'll probably save the biggest head for seed, and then I will just leave the other heads out for the birds to enjoy. But yeah, I'm so happy about my sunflowers. The variety is called Mongolian Giant, so I'll definitely be growing them again, but like I said, I'll probably be taking seeds from the biggest sunflower. So hopefully I can have even taller sunflowers next year. I'll have to find out a better way of staking them, because my stakes were only like this high, so they weren't very high. They need obviously stronger ones and taller ones. But yeah, and I'm also planning on growing more sunflowers, but I'll quickly just go through this area because I don't think I've talked about it on the video before. But basically this is where the strawberry beds were. Now there was one bed here and one bed there, and they had 24 strawberries in each bed, but the problem was bindweed was growing up through the chicken wire on the bottom of the beds, and obviously I couldn't get to the bindweed to dig it out because the beds were there. So I just came to the decision to get rid of the beds. The strawberries are currently in the flower patch, but I would like to put them in guttering inside the fruit cage at some point, which left this area free. And my plan for it was to create a space that would help look after the allotment in some way. So this bit here was going to be grass. It's currently weeds, but it's going to be grass. So there'll be grass here. At the end there was going to be a manure bin. Now I was going to have a manure bin and a compost bin, but my dad's got a massive compost bin, so I just thought I might as well just use his. So I was going to have a manure bin at the end of the path here, so I can add that back to the allotment and give something back to it. There's a comfrey pot here. Now I bought this comfrey back in January, I think, and then I popped it in here, but it's grown like mad. Now I'm going to make my own fertilisers using the comfrey leaves. So I've got these barrels here. I got them from a car boot to put my fertilisers in. Now there's one down there. I'm not going to even attempt to move it because last time I moved it I splashed it down me and it stank. It's nettle fertiliser and it absolutely stinks, but it's going to do wonders for the allotment, so that's all that matters. That actually needs straining and putting into another bottle, and then I'll use it as a concentrate in the watering can on some of the plants. But yeah, I was going to make some fertilisers and put like a shelf on top of the manure bin, probably just an old plank or something, and then put my fertilisers on top of the manure bin. So that would be the bits that would go back into the allotment. So that would leave a bed here. So I was going to have rhubarb in. 2 of my rhubarb crowns have rotted, and it was my fault because I found them, well, someone was giving them away at the top, well, by the entrance of the allotment site, and they got a bit wet, and so they didn't survive. But one's come up really well. So I'll probably plant 2 more rhubarbs there, have more sunflowers next year, and probably just plant a few annuals around here. And then there's the new addition of this water tank, which is an old vintage riveted water tank which completely holds water. And I know I've been saying it for years, but hopefully this week I'm going to get the galvanised sheeting on top of the roof. So once that's up, I will get some guttering set up, and then the water can go into the tank. I mean, the tank is full up about this much already, just with no guttering. So with the guttering, it's going to be great. And then I can just grab my watering can, dip it in the tank, and away I go. No more, traipse into the tap, which just takes ages. And obviously rainwater is better for the plants as well. I'll also just quickly show you this. You're probably just thinking, oh, it's a big metal K, but there's plans for this. I'm going to cover it in chicken wire and plant it up with succulents and alpines. I think it will just look stunning. So yeah, great. I'm going to move on because I'm probably just rambling. I think you can see the trough. Yep. So the trough, again, has done brilliantly. The tulips were beautiful. Some of them didn't come up, so my plan this year is to replace them all, and I'll go through some of the new bulbs I've got with you when we go back into the shed later. So yeah, the tulips were beautiful, and after the tulips died back, I took them all out because I'm going to be replacing them. But then after that, I popped a squash into this corner and a gherkin into the furthest corner. Now I do this every single year, and every single year, bar the first year for the gherkin did really well the first year. Every year since then, the squash and the gherkin have just done rubbishly. They've just been really bad. But I didn't give up, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I don't know if you can see already, but this is my squash harvest. So there's one plant in here, and it produced 5 squashes of beautiful, beautiful size. I don't know how much you can tell how proud I am of my squash. They're like my little babies. But yeah, there was 4 really big squashes, and then this little tiny one here, which I'm still proud of. He's all right. So yeah, the squash just did brilliantly. And I will tell you a little secret here. It's not really a secret, but I added a 6x natural fertiliser into the trough around February, March time. So it obviously worked, because I just got the happiest harvest ever of this year. I think this was actually my proudest moment this year, because I really honestly didn't think I would get any squash. So yeah, the trough was a success, and I will be planting more tulips into there in November time. Brand new tulip bulbs, which I'm so excited about, and like I said, I'll tell you about them later. But I will move on to the flower patch next, but I've completely been rambling here. So we'll talk about flowers next. So the flower patch hasn't been my greatest success this year. Like I said, I've sort of just neglected the allotment lately, and the flower patch I think was the thing that I neglected the most. I didn't really get around to planting out any annuals this year, so it's been a little bit bare. I was lucky though, because some cosmos self-seeded from last year, which I'm so chuffed about because I just love cosmos, and I was a little bit gutted that I didn't get to plant any out this year, but it's like a miracle, like a gardening miracle. So I'm really happy with that. And I'd just like to point out, I don't know if you can see them because they're so small. There's 3 sunflowers down there. This one's quite tall. but the other two are like a metre high. They are the exact same variety as those monsters over there. So I'm not entirely sure what happened. But the globe artichoke, which I planted out, is down there and it's doing okay, so I won't say any more because I'll probably jinx it. There's fennel, which I just love the height. The asparagus is still producing the foliage, which is good. I don't want to cut it yet because this was only its second year. Foxgloves are blooming, and there's a hollyhock that bloomed as well. I want to have like a whole row of hollyhocks and a whole row of foxgloves, but again, it was just finding the time to do it. The Cirsium produced lovely, but that produces early in the year, so it's sort of died back now. Allium was beautiful. It's always beautiful. I keep meaning to plant more alliums out, and it would be nice to get some more bulbs. The gladioli as well. I think there was one here. Oh, there was one there. Oh, yep, one here and one over there. Stunning. I love them. And verbena, but basically that was it. The apple tree produced some apples, but I took them off because it was only its second year and I don't want it to produce any apples yet. I want all the focus to go onto the roots, so I took all the apples off of that. But yeah, one of the only times I really appreciated this space this year was, I think it was July, when I popped back from Wales one time. Oh, we went to the Hampton Court Flower Show to visit. That was amazing. But yeah, I popped up the allotment one morning and the sun was perfect and the light was just beautiful. And I sat here with a cup of tea, like the only time this year. And the flower patch was just, it looked lovely because there were flowers out and the gypsophilia in the pot was out and the lavender was out. And I thought, oh, this is really lovely. But when you look at it like this, I just think, ugh. And part of me is thinking now to get rid of this. And I know I've only just done it, but this here used to be a vegetable bed. So there used to be the 3 vegetable beds were a little bit bigger. And there used to be 1 here and then 2 over there instead of the 3 over there now. And what I was thinking, and I'm so tempted to do, is to make this into a bed again. But instead of turning it back into a vegetable bed, is to just grow rows of flowers. So I could fit more into this space. And I could have dedicated rows, a row of cosmos, a row of zinnias, and just rows and rows of flowers. And I was a little bit inspired by the plot here, which had a row of cornflowers on this end and a row of zinnias the other end, and it looked so nice. And I thought, it looked really nice. And yeah, I don't know what to do yet. And part of me likes this because I can sit here, but then the other part of me thinks, well, I didn't really get time to sit out here this year, so I don't know what to do, but I'm sure I'll keep you all updated anyway. So yeah, that's about it for this space. There's not much else to say about it. It needs a lot of work, it needs a lot of weeding, but I'm not sure what to do yet. So we shall move on to, I guess, the archway. Yeah, the archway. We'll do the archway. It's not really an archway, but we'll do the archway. Just going to get my cardigan on because it's getting a bit cold now and I actually think it's going to rain at any minute. But it is the end of September, so can't complain really. Right. So this is the archway. Not really an archway, but I just like to stick to the old name because I am hoping that my dad will make me a metal archway, or maybe like 3 metal archways to have here, so it can be like it was when I made it out of hazel, because I just loved it. But this year I just made up this temporary bamboo, 2 structures either side, just so the things could have something to climb up, because I didn't give up on those munchkin pumpkins. I planted I think it was 4 plants, so 2 either side. I also planted out some Bilotti beans and some French beans. So the Bilotti beans are on this side and the climbing French beans were on this side of the arch. Again, it wasn't a huge success. Nothing will ever compare to the first year I grew munchkins, when I got about 34 pumpkins from those 4 plants. But I'm not one to give up and I do keep trying. I actually put some of that 6 times fertilizer down along the archway to give it a little bit of a boost. But it wasn't a huge success. I will show you something though, just in the shed here. Ta-da! That was the harvest from this year. And I know it doesn't look a lot, but honestly, I couldn't be happier. I've been growing munchkin pumpkins for the past 3 years now. First year I got 34, 35. Second year I got nothing. And then this. So we're getting there again. We're building back up to the first year success. But no, honestly, I couldn't be happier with them. And I might eat one and keep one for decoration. So I don't know which one to eat yet, but so what else? Oh, the Bilotti beans, they grew, and the French beans grew. There wasn't a huge harvest at all. I think I planted them out a bit too late. I got let's just say it was about a handful of Bilotti beans to store throughout winter. And that was it. We ate a few of the French beans straight, fresh from the plant, but it wasn't the best. So I think next year I'm going to really try and add some nutrients back into this soil, because I've been growing the same things here every year. It obviously needs something put back into the soil, so I'm going to try and get some manure and things like that to add something back to give it a boost. But I'm never giving up. I just love munchkin pumpkins. And this is one of the only spaces where I can really grow them, because obviously the plot is really small. There's not much space to grow things, and the best way to go is up. So yeah, that was the archway. We'll move on to the big mess, which you've probably noticed here, which is the Brassica bed. I don't know what else to say about it. It's one of those things where, you know, you put a small pile of weeds there, and then you just add to it, and you add to it, and you keep adding to it, and then it just turns into this. So I didn't grow any brassicas this year because I just didn't have the space. I haven't had the time or the energy to do anything about this all summer. Obviously we've been doing all the shows, so I didn't have the time. And now part of me looks at it and thinks, oh, I really don't want to touch it, but I know that I have to, and I will do it. But it's one of those jobs that I am sort of putting off a bit, and it's one of those jobs which I can do any time from now, you know, throughout winter, because nothing's going to be going there. But yeah, it's a complete mess, and I'm so gutted not to have any brassicas this year, because obviously last year I was picking kale and flower sprouts, and there was purple sprouting broccoli in there, and it was amazing. So I am very gutted to not have any brassicas, but hey, that's the best thing about gardening. There's always next year. And hopefully this will be cleared by next year. So yeah, I think it's just going to be trips to the tip and maybe burning a few of the sweet corn stalks and things like that. But I will get there. It will happen. But yeah, that's the area I am most ashamed of this year. But it will be cleared for next year. But what we'll do is we'll move on to the other 2 vegetable beds, which have done rather well this year. I'm quite pleased with them. And we'll also talk about the fruit cage as well. I'll put these away first. Right, let's talk about the 2 vegetable beds that actually provided this year. So this bed here was the potato bed. It had 4 rows of international kidney potatoes in, and they did really well, so I can't complain about them at all. When the potatoes came out around June, July time, I had already sowed at home some Musselburgh leeks and some Swiss chard bright lights. So they had been sown at home, ready to come out as soon as the potatoes had come out of the bed. So there's 3 rows of leeks and there's 3 rows of Swiss chard. And as you can see, they're doing really, really well. I hope there's still enough time now for the leeks to fatten up a little bit. They're nice and straight and they've grown lovely, but they're not so thick. So I'm hoping there's still time for them to thicken out. Swiss chard, on the other hand, is just looking amazing. I could not be happier with the Swiss chard. And the best thing about growing the bright lights variety is that it adds a bit of colour to the plot. So I'll be harvesting that when I need it, because it's cut and come again. You can add it to omelettes and quiches and things like that. It makes a really, really nice quiche, and the recipe's over on the blog if you have any chard. But basically it's a bit like spinach, so you cook it like spinach. And it's really hardy, so that should overwinter. If it doesn't snow lots, that should overwinter fine, as well as the leeks. So I'm just going to leave that bed completely alone and just use it when I need it. This bed here was the legume / other bed, and it had 2 rows of broad beans, which I sowed last November. The harvest was okay from them. They got black fly and it wasn't great, but it wasn't too bad. There was 1 row of red onions, which was a complete disaster. They all rotted, so that's it. I won't talk any more about them. 2 rows of carrots, which I'm currently still harvesting from, called Sweet Romance. They're really good. And the thing I forgot to do with them this year was put a barrier around them to protect them from the carrot fly, the white carrot fly. Because they can't fly higher than 1 metre, I usually put this barrier around, which is like this white mesh, and it's about 1 metre high, and it stops obviously them destroying the carrots. But I haven't had any problems with them this year, so I'm really, really chuffed about it. They're nice and straight and they're nice and fat, so I could not ask for anything more from these carrots. They've done really good. In this patch here, in the first half, I had 2 yellow courgettes called Parador. They did really well, and I'm pleased to say none of them turned into marrows this year, so I stayed on top of them and they were delicious. I might actually plant some more courgettes next year. There was also a Crown Prince squash here. I planted both my squashes. There were 2 here, one in the back there, but I'll go on about that in a minute. Yeah, I planted them both quite late, so they were very, very slow starting, and this is currently the only one there. I've cut it away from the vine so it can ripen, because it's not going to grow anymore now, it's too cold. So I'm hoping it will ripen, but it's not the biggest. So yeah, there were 2 courgettes and the Crown Prince squash there growing amongst them. And then in the back half there was a square of sweet corn, climbing French beans, and another Crown Prince squash. That whole area at the back was a complete and utter disaster. The sweet corn was meant to grow so high, but it only grew about this high. I got a harvest from it, but the cobs were literally miniature. And nothing came from the Crown Prince squash in there, nothing. So I've pulled it all up now. And I'll just tell you quick, I made a mistake when I planted out the beans. The Bilotti beans were actually meant to be climbing up the sweet corn, and the French beans were meant to be where the Bilotti beans are. So the whole archway was meant to be French beans. But I got them mixed up. So yeah, my mistake. But I wanted the Bilotti beans to grow up the sweet corn, because it's so hard to pick the beans once they're growing in amongst the sweet corn. They're hard to see, and they're also hard to get at. So I thought I'll grow the Bilotti Beans up there this year because I let them dry on the plant, so I don't need to pick them until, you know, they've died back. But obviously I made the mistake, so I'm going to try again next year. Maybe one year I get it right. But that was it for this year. What I did do is when the broad beans came out, I put 2 rows of dwarf French beans. They just started to flower now, but I decided to take them up because they're not going to produce anything. It's far too cold now. I mean, it's October on Sunday, so they wouldn't have stood a chance. So I just thought I'll take them out and then I can just keep on top of this area. But that's it. I mean, there's been some successes, some failures, but I learned from it, and hopefully next year I'll be a bit more on top of it before the show starts. So yeah, and that's the vegetable beds. The radish tank, I sowed some at the beginning of the season and I got some radishes. They were yummy, yummy, yummy. But once the show started, I didn't have time to sow them successionally, and they've gone to seed now, which I'm not complaining about too much because I like to sow a lot of radishes, or I try to sow a lot of radishes. It's nice to have the seed, and obviously there's free seed there now, so I can't complain. The fruit cage was also a bit of a disaster this year. The raspberries are coming into their own now and they're doing magnificently. They're doing really, really good. I'm really chuffed with them. The raspberries have always been good. And they're autumn fruiting. And they've gone a bit mad this year. I haven't cut any of the runners away, so it's hard to get in and actually pick them. But what I'm doing now is I tend to get like a big handful every other day. So I'm taking them home and I'm washing them and putting them in the freezer, and I'm going to make raspberry jam, because usually, like I said, you only get a handful and I just scoff them straight away, and I never have enough to make jam within one go. So I'm determined this year to make raspberry jam. So there's a massive bag in the freezer now full of all my homegrown raspberries, so hopefully soon I'll have enough to make jam. I've noticed a few more in there now, so I might try and pick some later today. What else? Oh yeah, there's the gooseberries. Didn't get anything from them this year. The 4 black currants, also I didn't get anything from them, and that was completely down to my fault. Completely down to neglection again. Basically the black currants ripened earlier than they usually do this year, and I didn't have time to come up here to harvest them, and when I did have the time they had gone over and they're a complete squishy mess when trying to pick them. So yeah, apart from the raspberries, nothing's come from the fruit cage, and it's a complete and utter mess. I laid bark down on the floor up to where the raspberries are, but there's grass growing in amongst the raspberries, so during the winter when I need to cut down all the raspberry canes, I'm going to give that area a really good weed. I'm going to get rid of some of the runners so I actually have room to walk around there, and obviously prune the gooseberries and the black currants, and then next year hopefully we'll have lots and lots of fruit. You probably say that every year, but yeah, life is hectic. I think the last patch to talk about now is just the pond area, and then we'll head back in the shed because I think it's starting to rain. So yeah, we'll quickly talk about the pond and then we'll get inside the shed. So the pond area is one of the spaces which has been neglected quite badly this year, and I know I've neglected a hell of a lot of the allotment this year, but I think most of my attention has been going on to the 2 vegetable beds which have actually been producing. And when I did actually have time to come up here, it's been weeding those areas because they were producing the most. So yeah, nothing has really been done to this area, but I sort of don't want to touch it too much because it is a wildlife sanctuary. You know, I don't really want to be disturbing it too much. But I think the way to go with this area is to just plant perennials into the area, because there's already the 2 roses here and the karoo grass. There's also the grapevine, so I think it would just mean putting a couple at the back and then about 3 or 4 here, and then you know, I wouldn't really have to touch the area apart from deadheading and, you know, cutting them back in the winter. That would be it. But yeah, nothing's really been done to this area apart from the self-seeded cosmos, which is lovely. There was some self-seeded borage, which the bees loved this year, but it died back, so I just pulled it up. Yeah, that's basically it. The roses have bloomed lovely, so lovely this year. The Katie's rose at the front here is just my absolute favourite. It blooms earlier on in the summer, but it looks so nice against the shed. I didn't prune it hard enough this year because it's put on a second growth, which is just crazy. And there's also a Penny Lane rose out at the back on the other rose bush. That rose bush actually needs to climb up and onto the roof. That's the plan anyway, but it's not happened so far. It sort of gets left out at the back there. Part of me wishes that the pond was a little bit smaller so I'd have more space to walk around, because it is really hard to get over to it. But yeah, the grapevine was just forgotten about, sad to say. It's put on really good growth and it's been amazing. The variety is called Flame and it's a red seedless variety. So it's done really well outside, but the tendrils have grown through the net into the fruit cage. I didn't tie them onto the frame at all, but I think it's its third year, so there'll be a couple more years yet until I get any harvests from them. So I'll be pruning it back, and I'll remember to tie the tendrils in this time, because I cannot wait to have my own grapes from there. There were 4 sunflowers at the back. They didn't grow as big as the other Mongolian giant ones over there, but the last one is currently in bloom, and I can just see a bumblebee on it, so it's all good. The water iris also bloomed lovely this year. It was so stunning. So I actually need to cut that back as well. And the water forget-me-not is currently in flower. I did actually chop that back last year because it spreads really bad. So it hasn't flowered too much this year, but the frogs still adore it. And I've seen a couple in there. I mean, there's one over by the water iris now. But the problem with the pond is loads of mud has fallen in, so it's half full up with mud. So I somehow need to figure out a way of cleaning all of that out. So I don't know if it means taking the water out, scooping all the mud out and then filling it back up again. I need to research it a little bit before I do that, because I don't want to disturb the frogs too much. But the mud does need to come out. So yeah, I think the way to go is to just plant perennials up here and to leave it be, leave it to the wildlife. But yeah, it's starting to rain and it's getting a little bit chilly, so let's head back into the shed and I will go over those tulip bulbs with you quickly. So that's the allotment, and I probably talked too much, so sorry about that. But like I said, I haven't talked to you in such a long time and there was so much to show you and talk about, so yeah, as you can see, it's been neglected a lot. And when I look back on pictures of when I first got the allotment, it is sad to see it like this, but like I said, life can be hectic and there's just not enough time to do everything that you want. So yeah, it is sad to see it like it, but hopefully next year we're going to be more organised and we're going to get things done before the shows start, because this year we left everything right till the last minute and then it was rushing and all that. So I think it's all down to proper planning and proper organisation. So yeah, we shall see. But I just want to talk to you about these tulip bulbs quick. I picked some Bilotti beans, well, the last of the Bilotti beans this year, so I'll dry them out in the shed. So at one of the garden shows, there's obviously loads of stalls there selling plants and bulbs, and we went to Ford Abbey Toby Buckland's Garden Festival at Ford Abbey, and there was a stand there called Pheasant Acre Plants, sorry, and they were selling tulip bulbs. And on my way to the toilet I spotted that they had my all-time favourite tulip bulb called La Belle Epoque. I just love it, and I've grown it before in the trough, but it doesn't come back every year, so I thought I'd replace the bulb. So I got 10 of them. I also got a double petal variety called Brownie. I got 5 of them. They're a lovely rusty orange colour. I got 10 spring green tulips, which I've grown again before in the trough. 5 called Queen of the Night, which are very, very dark purple. And last but not least, I brought 5, I'd say they're novelty tulip bulbs. They're called Ice Cream, and basically they look like ice creams. I'm so excited to grow them. I think if they do well, I'll probably be buying some more bulbs. From the same stall, I also bought some narcissus called Cheerfulness. I really love daffodils, but I'm not too keen on like the traditional ones. And this variety is a very, very pale yellow, almost white I'd say, but it has multiple heads on one bloom. So I thought I'd treat myself to them. But basically I got, what did I get? 45 bulbs? Yeah, 45 bulbs. Oh no, and I got some crocus. Oh, I always forget about them. I got some little crocus bulbs. Because I want to do another lasagna planting bulb in the pot outside the shed. So I got all these bulbs for £20, and I was really, really chuffed. Because they were doing a deal for like 10 for £4 or 25 for £8, which I thought was really good. Because usually I buy from Sarah Raven, and even though her bulbs are beautiful, I think they can be a little bit expensive. So yeah, ta-da! I cannot wait to plant them out, and I'll be planting them out in November. So that's the tulip bulbs. What else was I going to show you? Yes, at the last show I was at, the Malvern Autumn Show, the lovely Stephen came up to me, and well, we talk a little bit on Facebook as well, and he's a teacher, or he helps to teach at a school where they do gardening, and he shows the kids some of my videos, and apparently they really like them. So if they're watching, hello. But I just wanted to show you the picture that they drew for me. So that's my shed and my archway, and there's me and my watering can, and there's my sunflowers and the pond and carrots and the munchkin pumpkins. I absolutely love it. What I'm actually going to do with it is I'm going to frame it and pop it up on the wall in the allotment, because I think it's so lovely. So thank you so much if you're watching. I really love the picture. And also, while I'm here, I don't know if any of you picked up the latest issue of the Kitchen Garden magazine, the November issue, but if you had turned to page 26, you might have spotted a familiar face and a familiar shed. I'm in the current issue of Kitchen Garden, and I'm so, so proud. It's such a good article. They came round last September, so it's been a long time coming, and I've been looking forward to reading it for ages. But it's actually 5 pages, all about my allotment. So if you can go and pick up a copy, then do, because it's a really good magazine. It's really good. If you're particularly into growing fruit and veg, then this is the one to get. And also I'm in it. So yeah, very, very proud of myself, and it just goes to show what the allotment can do if you put a little bit of time and effort into it. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. It was meant to be a really quick update, but it's probably over half an hour long. So if you put up with me this long, then well done. What I am hoping to do is do a few cookery episodes as well over the next couple of weeks, because I have some squash. I was going to make some squash soup, and I was going to roast one of my munchkin pumpkins and do a Swiss chard quiche and make some carrot cookies and things like that. So hopefully now the shows are done, we'll have a bit more time on our hands, and you know, I can spend a bit more time up here. I'm determined to clear that old Brassica bed full of the rubbish. I am determined. But yeah, I think that's it. So I just want to say thank you for watching. Sorry the update took so long to film, and sorry it's quite long. But thank you for watching, and hopefully it won't be long until I see you in the next video.